Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. And we're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. My name is still Dan.
My name is still Jack.
And tonight we have another Season 13 episode, actually. We just watched one last week.
Back to back. We're making up for not having a Season 13 up until last week.
Right, and last week's was a clip show, so,
It doesn't really count.
Yeah. It was not a good episode to judge Season 13 as a whole, so hopefully this one is.
What is two Season 13s called? Is that like a baker's twoosin'?
A baker's unlucky day. 213.
If a baker has to watch two Season 13 episodes, it is his unlucky day.
Very true, very true. And today, that episode is The Frying Game, which aired in May of 2002. Mm-hmm. Jack, have you seen this one?
No, if I had to guess, I'd say it's a parody of The Crying Game, but with kitchenware?
That's a fair guess. I feel like I have seen this one because I was still watching Season 13.
Yeah, I was still watching Season 13. I must have seen it.
I don't remember a damn thing about it. I have no...
I don't know the plot, so the title doesn't ring a bell.
No, not at all. We have a guest who wants to talk about this episode, so we'll blame him if it really, really is terrible, but we're going to take a break in a moment and watch the episode and then come back and talk about it. Real quick, though, I just want to thank everyone for downloading the show and for supporting us. You guys have been really great with iTunes reviews, and reminder to click through our Amazon links on weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com. That really, really helps us out.
Buy some frying pans.
Yeah, exactly. You can fry up your classic pickles. Is that a thing people do? Frying
pickles? Yeah, frickles.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
They serve them at Simpsons Trivia. That's
really?
Yeah. I know you're too busy asking the questions.
I would never eat there. The food is quite good.
Cut all this.
They're going to be mad. All right.
Come for the trivia. Stay for the diarrhea.
You get some prickle coming out of your...
Plastic makes your butt perk.
So much for doing a quick, easy intro to the episode. So if you have not seen The Frying Game, you can do so on SimpsonsWorld.com, or maybe it's on TV right now. Who knows? We're going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Oh, man, what a day. I'd kill for a beer.
Right away, sir. I don't want no trouble.
I'd stab somebody for a pickle. Give me some peanuts.
Up. You didn't say you'd kill me.
I'll kill you if you don't give me some peanuts.
Here you go, mister.
All right, so that was Season 13's The Frying Pan.
Boy, The Frying Game.
Frying Game.
Let's go with it. Let's keep it going.
The Frying Pan would probably be more interesting if it was just 22 minutes of a close-up of a frying pan. If it was the Frying Pan radio playing the Kinks, that would be
more entertaining for 22 minutes. Yeah, I think so.
But before we
dig into that episode, and boy, is there a lot to dig into, we want to introduce our guest for this episode. Mr. Rusty Harding is here with us. Hello, Rusty.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Rusty.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
You are very welcome. So Rusty is a frequent winner at Simpsons Trivia in Brooklyn.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. And one of the
As
prizes...
opposed to all those losers, am I right?
That's right. Oh, man. All those people at trivia are SOBs.
Classy SOBs.
We haven't started recording yet, right?
No, why do you think I said frying pan?
Oh, no. So, Rusty, you are a frequent winner at trivia, so welcome. This is your new prize for
Yay, hooray!
First prize.
That's right.
Actually, this is the punishment for coming in second.
Oh, yes.
Second prize.
Second prize.
You have to be on the show. So, Rusty, before we get talking about this episode, let's talk about you as a Simpsons fan, I guess.
Okay.
So what seasons are your favorites? Like, where do you think the classic episodes lie?
So, a lot of my favorite episodes that I just really like to just throw on in the background for fun or whatever, probably between seasons 3 and 8. I mean, that's
damn good range.
That's like the range essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
But I really have a soft spot for seasons 7 and 8. I really like the work that Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein do as EPs. So
Definitely.
I feel like at that point in this series run, like we really know these characters and they can. I'm a sucker for the emotional episodes as well as just the wacky off the wall episodes too. So.
So you want far out locations.
Yes.
Character drama, just like you face every day.
Exactly. I am the that kid in the Itchy and Scratchy testing room. I really like the Speedo Man.
We know.
Yes. So
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you brought up season 7 and season 8, the first thing I thought of was one of my favorite episodes, which is season 7, Bart Sells His Soul, which I think is not only a very funny episode, but a very emotional episode, and kind of like almost like a spiritual episode.
yeah. I remember watching that episode. I had just been like grounded. Like at home, and my punishment was not to watch The Simpsons.
I think you could say your punishment was that they took your soul.
No.
They sold your soul.
No, I had a big dinosaur bite me and get smelly smelling water on me. I was grounded. I wasn't able to watch The Simpsons, but I still like snuck out and like watched it anyway, and I got caught watching this episode of Simpsons. And I said, but it's about like religion and stuff.
It's basically learning.
Yes, it's like I learned a lesson. They're like, okay.
That should be a good excuse for it. Like if you got caught murdering somebody, and it was just like, but I was watching The Simpsons.
I learned a lesson from murdering this person. Don't murder someone and get caught.
If you learn a lesson from any crime, it should be okay.
Yeah.
Precisely. You know, that's the neat and tidy sitcom kind of bow tie on it. But,
Well, some sitcoms, maybe not. Maybe not this one. Not in season 13.
No. We find it doesn't really work in this episode.
Yeah. Well, speaking of learning lessons when you murder people, Jack, let's talk about what this episode was about. I'm not going to murder you.
I didn't know if you were going to murder me.
Die, you son of a bitch!
Reveal my murders. Because I don't learn any lessons anyway.
You've given too much of yourself away now.
Of course. So let's talk about the frying pan. No,
the frying game.
The
exact parody of the crying game.
Okay,
yes.
So the frying game has a very lengthy non sequitur first act, which The Simpsons has been doing since the dawn of time.
Yep.
And it starts out with Homer buying Marge a koi pond, and the koi pond attracts a screaming caterpillar, which is an endangered species, so there's nothing they can do about this bug that just screams nonstop and it's really irritating. I'm just going to blow through this. We can stop and talk about everything.
We're definitely going to talk about that caterpillar.
Yes. Eventually, Homer hurts the caterpillar, almost kills it. His sentence is to do Meals on Wheels, where he meets a kindly old lady, seemingly at first, by the name of Mrs. Bellamy. But she's ends up somehow through a series of events. Homer and Marge pretty much become her servants, and then she is murdered with a pair of scissors in the back by a man with braces. Homer and Marge are accused of this crime, and then it takes on kind of the second or third. I guess the second act would be the town. They're not in jail, but they're the top suspects, so the town all is suspicious of them. Eventually, they do go to jail. They do go to court, and they get the death sentence. And as Homer confesses to get Marge out of death row, and then as Homer is about to be electrocuted, you find out it was all an elaborate scheme for a new reality show called Frame Up.
You know, when you say it back like that, it kind of sounds crazy.
Yeah, a little.
Like a little wacky of an episode.
Like I said, I would have preferred the 22-minute frying pan playing the Kinks.
Pan is definitely a better episode.
But I was right. It was totally the crying game. It was the plot of the crying game.
Because Marge had a penis?
Yeah.
I've never seen the crying game. That's the only thing I know about.
That's what it's about. Is Marge has a penis. Yeah, that's actually the plot of every movie.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
penis.
So before we talk about the episode, Rusty, why did you make us watch this?
Let's talk more about Marge's penis.
This is called Worst Episode Ever.
Sure is.
I wanted to go with that. I felt like when I watched this episode, when I first saw this episode, I saw it live when it aired. It was maybe the week after I had graduated high school. Mm-hmm. I'm of that age. I'm about 31. So this was right maybe a week after I graduated high school, and it was one of the first episodes. I was like, oh, what? I should like be doing fun stuff in the world, like outside.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
So this is when you became a man.
This episode was my bat mitzvah.
Not your bar mitzvah, but your bat mitzvah.
Yes,
that's interesting.
that's right.
Where you became a woman.
So that's a whole nother podcast. So when I revisited this episode, when I first discovered you guys' podcast, and I was like, what were the terrible episodes of The Simpsons I've thought about? Like, I went back and rewatched this one, and like, no one in this episode seems to really be playing their own roles. Like Homer, when they open up the show, Homer is like, oh, he's the greatest husband, and
definitely.
he knows what a koi pond is, and he goes through great extensive effort, and that's not Homer. And you know, that already got me off on the wrong foot to begin with. But then,
And it gets worse from there.
it gets worse from there because then they start to really cram too many stories in. And I'm, you know, we're all familiar with their non sequitur beginnings, but it felt like they took maybe 5 or 6 potential plots and just shoved them in a blender, and you know, we saw what stuck. So
Yeah.
we weren't really able to really follow along and get a sense of rhythm of any of these items. It was really just a mishmash of them all. And then just at the very end, the whole reality thing, that just like slaps you in the face like, well, you just wasted about 20 minutes of your life watching this episode.
Yeah, it was like one step above or maybe even below just being like, it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Just like none of this actually happened on this fictional TV show.
So according to The Simpsons, it's okay to have an episode where they go off into another planet and are forced to eat each other. But if they're gonna be in a murder trial, that should be a reality show. That should be fake.
Yeah.
Let's pull it back a little bit. I mean,
That'd be silly.
this is a
bring
show
that-
for
let's bring that
families.
in. And like, you know, Bart and Lisa are missing for like lengths at a time. Like I think they maybe say like 2 or 3 words in like all of Act 2.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's just talk about that real quick because it's such a minor part of the episode, like you just said. So Bart and Lisa, when Homer and Marge get arrested, they're kind of taken away, and Cletus and Brandine come out, and they're like basically adopting them like surrogate parents.
It was very similar to when they get accused of bad parenting and they go to the Flanders. It was
Right,
It was
exactly,
almost
yes.
beat for beat that.
Which is what,
except
but I thought that we would see at least one scene of like Bart and Lisa with Cletus at like his house.
it looked like they were
nowhere.
setting up a B plot.
Right, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do that at all. There was just one
literally
scene.
that scene, and I didn't think it was funny. The only joke I think the scene had was that they got new country names. Or
Right, and they were like wacky hillbilly names.
Yeah, like
Rachel Lee.
Rachel
Pamela
Lee Cook. Oh, Pamela E. Lee.
and Dingus Squatford Jr.
Yeah,
Right.
And like, I don't know. I mean, when
was whatever.
When there's that scene where Cletus names all his kids, they were funny because they kind of fit, even though that like Bradley I think was one of the names.
Yeah, and then Cubert.
Yeah, and with like Dingus McGillicuddy, whatever it just was, Squatford.
Jr.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Dingus Squatford the Elder.
Of course.
He founded the railroads in Springfield, of course.
But yeah, it was too much. It was, and so it wasn't like that's your one joke, and it wasn't.
It was too much, but there was like the button on the end of the scene I actually did kind of think was funny, where Brandine calls Lisa Dingus, as opposed to you would think that she would be Pamela, and like that was the joke, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. Not,
the old-
it didn't work. But that was like it for Bart and Lisa.
Yeah.
Oh, and Bart had a line at the end where when they revealed that it was all a TV show, Bart is just like, I was in the green room. I ate so much shrimp.
So
That's
much
it.
Yeah, and
that is it. Is that a joke?
Well, that's like a insider, like
'cause green
entourage
rooms have
type joke.
shrimp.
Yeah, but it
What is
wasn't.
that? It's
It
not
wasn't.
that.
That was literally nothing, and
Yeah.
that
It's like, well, my dad's going to be executed. Oh, I'll just sit in the green room, you know? Why not?
Eating up those shrimp.
Eating up those
I
shrimp.
feel like if you're gonna do that green room joke, yes, they have shrimp. Like, I don't know. Maybe it would have been funny if they said, like, I'm picturing like a talk show, like a Jay Leno green room, where if it was funny if he was like watching it with a random C-list star. He's like, yeah, I was watching from in the green room with Richard Belzer. Yeah, I don't know.
That would have been funny.
Something like that. I don't
Richard
know.
Belzer, the center of the television universe.
Exactly, of course. That's what we talked about last
As
week.
we talked about last week, yes. Yeah, it was bizarre. Yeah, in We Studios' own green room, all we serve are plastic pickles.
Yeah, well, you know what? So I want to talk
talk about the pickles?
Well, I want to talk about the first act.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to the beginning.
We'll talk about. There's plenty of times for pickles.
Yeah.
Plenty. It's always pickle time.
And if you want to buy
But
some,
so
it's pickle time. The Mighty Pickle Power Rangers, less popular television series.
no, so this is actually one of the rare times where we record at night. Usually we record in early afternoon, and this is one of our night episodes. So far, our drunken podcast was a night episode, and our Man Who Came to Be Dinner, which got a little silly.
I think it's safe to say both of those got a little silly.
started doing Dalek voices for some reason.
Yeah.
So it was funny that we're doing a night
Did
episode.
someone call for me?
No, we didn't. Go back.
Oh, okay, I'll go over here.
Roll backwards. Stop knocking everything over with your plunger.
Oh no! I've made a horrible mess.
No, anyway, so the fact that it's a night episode, for some reason, anytime we do a night episode, we always pick the worst thing to wake up my neighbors, for instance, Dalek voices.
Yeah.
And then in this episode, of course, it had to be a screaming caterpillar
Yes.
that screamed
Yes.
constantly, nonstop,
Yeah.
in an irritating fashion. And I'm just like, well, I'm glad it's evening and I have the thinnest walls ever. So,
Yeah.
So great episode, Rusty.
Thanks, Rusty.
yeah.
I aim to please.
We'll never have you back.
So
Great.
So I guess before we get into the caterpillar,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that very first scene in Moe's bar.
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
Rusty said it perfectly. Where when it started, I was like, Homer is not this smart. And I actually had a second where I was like, am I just used to these new episodes where Homer is, filming porno movies in the house and then not actually resolving the problems with Marge?
Right. That's
Like,
it's quite a shift.
He would sometimes be sweet.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere, but Homer has been that sweet before, and I would have totally bought it and been fine with it if they just had some excuse, like he did something really awful and he was trying to make up for it. It was out of place because it was out of nowhere.
And also because it was the koi pond, which was such a weirdly specific thing that Homer would probably not know about or want to spend the money on.
Right. I think that's very much a 2002 kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the Simpsons writers got a koi pond,
Right.
or his sister-in-law got a koi pond,
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, this will make a great Simpsons episode." I don't know why. My Simpsons writer sounds like.
Rough mountain man.
Well, that also brings up an interesting point. I remembered. I did a little research before this episode.
Oh, somebody did.
We don't do any research.
This episode came from the brilliant mind of Mr. John Swartzwelder.
Okay.
Who's really responsible for a lot of great episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
He's maybe the most prolific Simpsons writer. He's definitely done.
He's up there
most
for sure.
of them. He stuck around for a while, but a lot of the classic episodes you know and love were probably written by him. I don't think we've done a Swartzwelder yet on the podcast.
I don't think so either because he's not on the show anymore.
He's not.
No, but he stayed at least maybe a couple more seasons after this too. I think.
Yeah. Just quick sidebar. He actually wrote at least one, but I think a series of books that were like self-published, and I have one of them, and it's pretty funny. It's called The Time Machine Did It. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
I've heard of them, and they're in my wish list.
Yeah. Oh well. If anyone wants to buy Rusty a present, you click through.
Yes.
WePodcast.com. Click our Amazon link. Yeah.
Buy Rusty.
Buy Rusty a gift. Send it to me.
That's right.
I'll make sure he gets
care
it. Wink, wink. Anyway.
But so when I saw John Swartzwelder's name as the writer on this episode, I was like, "What? No, John, come on." John.
Yeah, he's done better.
He's done a lot better.
So
I think.
I'm not going to allow myself to criticize John Swartzwelder. I'm kind of just going to give him. Even though we're supposed to be completely objective here, I'm just going to be. I just don't want to piss the guy off. He seems like he could still win in a fight, but I kind of feel like. He was always a little bit older than the rest of the writers group back in the heyday.
Yeah.
He always sat by himself in a diner and wrote by himself. He's kind of like almost like a Mad Men writer,
right?
Like an old school. He wasn't that old, but
yeah,
he had this like old school vibe about him. So I kind of feel like this was his response to reality TV, which was just people were realizing it wasn't a fad; it was a real thing in 2002.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like this was him like. Being like the old man shouting at the
yells at clouds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
But with reality TV.
Well, supposedly John Swartzwelder, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard it, was the inspiration for Ron Swanson on Parks and Recreation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
have you guys
awesome.
heard that either?
No, I never heard that.
So imagine like a Ron Swanson type, like a mountain man's man, like seeing reality television. His
Whose
response would
sister-in-law
naturally-
had a koi pond.
Whose sister-in-law had a koi pond.
All full circle.
Yeah.
So I think that might have something to do with it. When this is jumping to the very end, but the one thing I did like about that reality show reveal was that they said it was either airing before or after, whatever. They named 2 other reality shows, and I actually liked the name. It was No Pants Island and Fart Date, and it was just kind of it was beautiful in its simplicity.
Yeah.
And if Swartzwelder did write those jokes, and this was all his personal response to reality TV, I could totally see him being like, it's all Fart Date to him.
Right.
Yeah.
So was my entire love life.
But
It's all Fart Date.
It doesn't really justify the end, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there. So let's go.
The episode starts off with Lenny and Carl doing bar talk about like what would you do like the verses.
yeah.
Who'd
What
win
did-
in a fight? Like,
It was like Joe Lewis or Diet Pepsi.
Yeah, the joke was that the two.
anti-lock brakes.
It
Yeah.
was literally apples versus oranges. Did you like that? I kind of liked it.
I think it was a good idea. Yeah, I didn't dislike it. It was. I
Although-
forgot about it until you mentioned it. I'll say that.
I forgot about it until I just mentioned it. I actually wrote a very similar gag in high school. I was an anchor on our closed circuit television morning news show because, of course.
Yep.
Because why not?
And we had the homecoming queen nominees on one day
I remember this.
from our
Yeah.
sister school, and so we had to interview them. And I actually came up with this. I was like, why don't we just ask them questions that are completely unanswerable? And it was literally the exact same thing. It was like Joe Lewis or Diet Pepsi or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was, and the joke would be that it's funny. But they were literally like, huh? What?
Well, I remember this very vividly, and this is not interesting to anyone, but one of them was like something or Gatorade, and I remember one girl was just like, Gatorade, the yellow one. That was her answer. I don't know why that's like burned into my memory for some reason.
Well, it was burned in my memory that the bit totally backfired because the girls were just like, they just didn't know how to respond, and no response was apparently not as funny as any response.
You've come a long way in your broadcasting
Yeah,
career,
of course.
Jess.
I've gone from 1,000 high school students to 1,000 people around the world.
That's right. Oh boy, oh boy.
Probably less Catholics now, but
So let's make all those transubstantiation jokes you couldn't make back in high school. It's just a cracker. No, I'm sorry.
we'll take that Protestant rhetoric out of our podcast.
So yeah, when they're in the bar at Moe's, that's the bar that they go to. It's on the television show The Simpsons.
Now this is Bo's Cabin.
Joe's Cavern from Shelbyville.
Yeah, that's right. When they're there, Homer is giving advice, I guess, on how to keep your wife satisfied. And one of the things he said was, "You put a mini beret on your wang." What'd you guys think of that?
I feel like the Simpsons in that era did several Wang jokes.
Yeah,
The only one I like is Wang computers.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Using the word Wang as penis, I don't know. I never jived with it.
I agree completely.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of effort to get like doll clothes for your genitalia. It's
Well, if you do want to get dog clothes for your genitalia, go to Amazon.com
through on
through
Amazon.com.
through we.
Just search doll clothes for your genitalia. It'll take you to the Wii Podcast website. You click right through to Amazon.
With the number 2 link.
Yes, that's right.
Number 1 is the dogclothesgenitalia.com. Deservedly so.
Of course, they work harder for it.
I did like the surprise with the pasta salad. I thought that was
Yeah.
that was
That was a good
that was a good
Because that's
Yeah.
Homer. If Homer was to be a good husband, that's something I would buy, not him getting a koi pond.
Right.
I would see Homer thinking being a good husband is surprising her with a pasta salad. That makes more sense.
Right, or like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen him do that.
Yeah.
But I did like after Mo gets that advice, he's like, I'm going to use this in speed dating, and he walks right out of the bar and then walks right back in and just goes, I got 400 no's.
I loved Hank
I thought-
Azaria's delivery.
Same. I thought that was
Yeah.
very funny. That was a
This
good moment.
Amazing amalgam of like disappointment and surprise.
Yeah.
And just like
Mixed with desperation.
yeah, this was sure to work. This was sure to work. Getting all gussied up for his speed dates.
Yeah, this is, I guess I was going to say it's before Mo was like a weird rapist, but it was actually the season after, but whatever.
Well, this was after Homer versus Digger.
Yeah, this is the
I keep
season
forgetting
after
that
that.
was so early.
Yeah.
All right, so he gets the koi pond. Right away, the direction was really nice. The camera kind of zigzag pans through, like, it shows the fountain, it runs down the fountain to the, it was nice. They could have just shown like a static wide shot of it, but they didn't.
Yeah,
so I
and
appreciated that.
Yeah.
And it was well animated too. I actually thought there was a decent amount of good animation in this episode. Like,
Yeah, throughout, yeah.
The koi pond was very visual. The house that Mrs. whatever, Bellamy.
Yeah, it was Bellamy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new sets in this episode
Right, exactly.
that are pretty nice to look at. You
Yeah.
know. It's not like the halls of Itchy and Scratchy Studios are on constant repeat.
To save money,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Although, but since I brought up the animation, I want to bring up a weird point that I pointed out to you guys when we were watching it. There's a scene where Chief Wiggum is searching the Simpson family, Homer and Marge's bedroom, and there was like a weird animation, like glitch almost, where
Yeah.
it seemed like So the way that animation works, just in case you don't know, and I'm clearly the expert on how animation
course.
works.
Right.
With your major in communications.
That's right.
And your law degree.
That's exactly right. I'm big on the big wheel at the animation factory. They have a background panel, and then there's a cell that's laid over that, and that's what makes the illusion of motion.
Right.
So it seemed like the cell with Marge and Chief Wiggum was too high.
Yeah,
and if
like
you look,
Poochie going to his planet.
like Poochie going back to his home planet. It looked like Marge and Wiggum were like stepping inside the dresser, and like
Yeah.
Marge was partially in the wall.
Yeah, it's very Fly.
Yeah.
It was very Cronenberg's The Fly.
I thought you were saying like we're back in the
like-
early '90s. Like,
it's
yo,
like-
that was Fly.
No.
What a fresh beat. You know?
Am I using it right? No, it's like The Fly 2, where they merge the two
No,
animals.
I never saw the Fly 2.
No,
I never saw the 1st
I've
one.
only seen The Fly.
Let's just talk about the Fly.
The
It's
Fly
so
2
much-
is
it's so good.
The Fly 2 is a great
Isn't
sequel.
that,
Really?
Like, it's his kid does it? All I've
Yeah.
seen of The Fly 2 is just the cover with the kid like holding a teddy bear, looking at the
No,
little chamber.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's good. It's not as good, but it's a solid sequel. If
Yeah,
you remember,
alright.
the end of The Fly ends with her giving birth to a giant maggot. Mm-hmm. He's human in the
Spoiler
sequel.
alert for the Fly.
yes.
Sort of. Not really.
Uh,
It's like a 30-year-old movie. You should really see it
Yeah.
if you haven't, but
yeah.
yeah.
Rosebud is the name of the maggot.
no.
It was
Well,
all
we-
a reality show.
They were on frame up.
Yeah. So yeah, Marge gets the koi pond, and I think now is the time to talk about the Scream-A-Pillar or
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
called
it's the
Scream-A-Pillar,
Scream-A-Pillar.
right?
Yeah.
So just generally, what did you guys think of the Scream-A-Pillar? Let's start with Rusty. This was your episode, so clearly you have strong opinions on this damn caterpillar.
Scream-A-Pillar. So I listened to the commentary on this episode, and one of the things that Swartzwelder told Scully, who's the EP on this, is that he has this idea for an episode, and it involves a Scream-A-Pillar, and he's going to take it from there. And so I think, like, knowing that this was his kind of kernel of where he let everything kind of go to, like, I have a little more, like, I enjoy it just a little more, but that doesn't make it mean I enjoy it at all. Like, this bug just screams and screams, and he's got this pain look on his face, and it's a really made up creature. It's got no
Very cartoonish.
It's very
Very
cartoonish.
cartoonish, yeah.
And I just think it's really just there to like serve the means to an end and be like annoying.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised to hear you say that was the kernel that like they started out with the episode, because it's such a nothing part of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
an annoying part.
I was really expecting at some point, and then we see the pillar at the very end in the death row. He's in the whatever that room is called where
Yeah.
you watch the guy die.
Right.
And he's still a caterpillar, and I was expecting at some point I wanted to see what he was going to turn into. I thought there was going to be a joke of what kind of butterfly or moth he turns into.
That would've
like
been good.
Homer thinks he kills him and he buries him. I thought he was going to come out a butterfly or something. And the fact
that would've been
the
good.
fact that if that was the kernel, now I really wonder why it never had a third beat.
Yeah.
Or a second.
Interesting.
But in general, besides the fact that it never turned into a human giant maggot, Jeff Goldblum's son.
Right.
But besides that, I love the animation. Like
Of the Scream-A-Pillar?
Yeah. I mean the cartoonish cutesy face was a little much, but they did a lot of fun jokes with it.
Yeah.
I can't remember any off the
There's
top of my head right now.
the birds are like some birds flying while the
Oh,
EPA
yeah.
guy is there, and they're like they're pecking at him and they're pulling him, tugging him back and forth, and he's going
Yeah, and Santa's little helper chews on him at some point.
Right.
I like the visual, but I mean, I have a real bad. I hate bad sounds. I really like everybody does, but I really just I can't. I don't want to hear it. And like I get the fact is that it's supposed to be annoying, but I just don't want to listen to it. And it just kept going. And again, thin walls, neighbors, but also me.
Also, I have ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's just hard to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. What bothered me most about it was that it was cartoony, yes, but it was so cartoony, and it was almost a sentient creature.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was basically a baby where where Marge had to get up in the middle of the night and feed it and burp it. They had to take care of it and make sure it didn't die, which is generally what you have to do with a baby.
reading stories.
Yeah, and
You know.
I don't know that rubbed me the wrong way in like a jockey elves kind of way.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
was a little
definitely
much.
it's
Yeah.
way too absurd, and it doesn't need to be.
Homer and Marge in this entire episode became strangely subservient to anything
Yes.
new that came into this episode.
You're
Homer
right.
and Marge like,
Whether it made sense or not.
Well, I guess we have to take care of it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
That's a
Woe
good
is
point.
us. So,
That's a good point.
very
And
strange.
the reason they have to take care of it is because an EPA guy comes literally out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The animation joke was that he was behind a very skinny tree,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't, sometimes I like a joke like that, but they never just the fact that he was in the backyard came out of nowhere.
Yes.
And just throw a token excuse in. Throw like,
Yeah.
I was at Flanders' house. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even if it was a bad joke, throw something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this real quick. So earlier this week, I had read this thing.
There's an EPA guy in your bedroom.
Yeah, there was an EPA guy in my bedroom, and he was like, "What are you doing over there? I have toxic waste in my bedroom." I read this thing a few years ago. Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the guys who created South Park and a lot of other funny things, they did like a guest lecture at NYU in like a storytelling class. And one of the principles that they told these students, there's a video out there, you can Google it and find it. They said that every beat in your story should be preceded by a but or a therefore, and never an and then. And I thought this episode was a perfect example of just and then. Because things didn't flow at all. It was just, and then the EPA guy comes out and says, you gotta take care of it. And then Homer goes to this old lady's house and he starts taking care of her, and none of it made any fucking sense, and it didn't flow from one thing to the next.
That's interesting. That's like the opposite
Yeah.
of improv.
Yeah, right.
No, but
Yeah, so I mean, the EPA guy especially, I mean, it was kind of the first big thing that comes out of nowhere and has no bearing on anything. It's just, if you want to get to that point where Homer has to take care of this endangered species, there's a better way to do it. Like you said, I like the idea, like he's at Flanders dealing with whatever, and he
he's
just
like
happens to come
he's like
by.
in Bible study or something.
Even if he's just walking down the street and hears the
Something.
screaming
Exactly.
children, like that's
Just
a reason that makes
just
sense.
a token.
I
just-
hear sleep screams.
Yeah,
What's
right,
going on
right, something
here?
like that.
And like I'm sure if they did it that way, we would be bitching right now and saying,
I mean, we'd be bitching no
saying
matter
like,
what.
hey,
It's a
that was a
terrible
weak
idea.
excuse. But
Yeah.
a weak excuse is better than no excuse.
Here, here.
That's what I tell my girlfriend all the time.
Oh boy,
Ooh.
on your fart dates.
My fart dates. I give her a weak excuse for my farts. I
Why
say,
you chose to televise those? I have no idea.
This episode brought to you by Popeye's Chicken.
Yeah. Oh boy. We did eat Popeye's chicken before this.
Yeah,
so-
of course, it's
Yes.
our nightly
Every time we
episode
have
tradition.
a night cast,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do Popeyes.
If you ask me, Muhammad Ali in his prime was much better than anti-lock brakes.
Yeah, but what about Johnny Mathis versus Diet Pepsi?
Oh, I cannot listen to this again.
Yeah, so one thing that I thought was interesting, so like I said before, the Screaming Pillar is basically sentient. It's kind of just a baby. And Homer accidentally kills it, or at least he thinks he does.
yeah.
And then he
Ooh,
immediately...
foreshadowing.
That's where I'm going with this.
Oh, I just foreshadowed your
You did.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, so he like thinks he killed it and he tries to cover it up immediately, which is kind of a reprehensible thing to do, but Homer's a dummy, so whatever.
He actually does the exact same thing, I believe, in the Simpsons movie too.
I've blocked the
hides
Simpsons movie
something from the
my
EPA
mind.
and dumps all the pig shit in the lake.
So this was a prequel to the Simpsons movie.
Spoiler
Screamer Pillar
spoiler
baby.
alert for
Oh,
the Simpsons
spoiler alert for
movie.
the Simpsons movie and The Fly too.
And also Fart Date.
The story of Jack McCone.
Yeah, so yeah, like I was gonna say, it's foreshadowing to what happens when he's with Mrs. Bellamy, because
Yeah.
the same kind of thing happens. And that was just something that I wanted to note that I liked.
Yeah, it seems almost like it was planned, although apparently it was just John Swartzwelder wanted to write about a screaming pillar, so I don't know if it...
Yeah, I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was there.
I did like that it was sexually attracted to fire.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that too. So the Screamer Pillar was very prone to dying.
Yeah, and yeah, he's like, you have to take care of it, it's a law,
Yeah.
and then the fact that all these different ways it's prone to just...
Yeah, that's a funny.
And the pamphlet that the EPA guy just happens to have because the Screaming Pillar is, while he's endangered, he has
Yeah.
custom-made literature.
It's a very common
It's
endangered
a very
species.
common.
Right.
The pamphlet is a giant Screaming Pillar in a city block eating people. It says Screaming Pillar care tips.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite lovely.
What do you guys think of after he thinks he killed it? I think this is when the angel and the devil appear on Homer's shoulder. A gag I'm pretty sure the Simpsons have done at least a few times in different ways.
I think like every sitcom is required to do this.
At least one angel devil. Who do you think? I wonder where the very first angel devil shoulder thing came from.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Rusty, we invited you here
It sounded like
specifically
we were setting it up for someone to say the
answer
answer.
our questions.
Well, I think, at least in The Simpsons, it was I am evil Homer. I am
Yes.
evil Homer.
No, I don't know, but in general, I really wonder, like that's such a common gag now, and there had to have been one guy or woman
Yeah.
who was literally like, what if there was an angel and a devil?
You know what we should do? We'll take a break. We won't take a break, but after we've finished recording the episode, we're gonna put it in here. The answer. Wow, I can't believe that's where it came from.
Wow. Huh, who
would've
would have
thunk
thought
it?
Ving Rhames?
Wow.
Why do you sound surprised? We just looked it
I'm
up.
surprised at life. Like, who would have thought Ving Rhames came up with the angel on your shoulder?
What a
There.
character.
Multi-talented.
Yeah.
He's a multi-hyphenate.
So you didn't like the gag in the show, though?
No, I thought it was okay. I like the devil killing the angel. I think that's
Yeah,
funny.
I like that. I thought
I
it
feel
was
like
a-
I've seen that elsewhere, but
I mean,
maybe not.
at this point, there's got to be
before
1,000 different ways to do the angel devil shoulder thing.
Yeah, it was fine. There were more objectionable things in the episode.
Yeah.
And then Homer has to go to court, and they bring him up on insecticide and assorted buggery, I think.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't assorted, right?
Something
Aggravated.
aggravated buggery.
As
That
opposed
was
to
it.
aggravated burglary.
And the fact that now we know that this episode began with the idea of the Screamo Pillar, I wonder if John Swartzwelder just like made the connection with insecticide, like being the killing of a bug, and that's how we got into like the court, and then it's like, oh, a homicide, and then it just spiraled out from there.
He had side on the brain.
Yeah, he just really wanted to make that insecticide joke, and then like it just spun out.
Which, by the way, I didn't care for the burglary.
It's one of those
a little
word-
much-
it's one of
it was
those
a pun,
wordplay jokes, yeah.
Two things I want to mention about that courtroom scene. One is a Duffman gag.
Yeah, that was
Duffman is
something.
better in small doses.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's only so much you can do with a very one-note character like Duffman.
I thought that the whole pension's mismanaged. I thought that was fine, but the last part of the joke, like the party hardy atmosphere is a registered trademark of
intellectual
Duff.
property of Duff, and
yeah.
he's like, oh, what about fair use? And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
It's like the joke is that he's saying something legal, but in Duffman.
right.
And
It
just,
probably would have just been better if it was just, you expect Duffman to have a ridiculous problem, but he comes up with like pension being mismanaged. Like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
end the
exactly.
scene. So Homer's in court and he gets sentenced to community service, and he's doing like a Meals on Wheels thing, and that's what leads to him working with this old woman. And it was just, there were a lot of steps.
Yeah,
to
so the
get there.
entire point of the Screamer Pillar was to get Homer delivering Meals on Wheels.
Yeah. But he doesn't need to be delivering Meals on Wheels. He could have just been like assigned to help an elderly person and like just pair her up with this woman right away.
Yeah.
Which would have made more sense, because here's a glaring problem with this episode, okay? This is like a big thing, but let's get into it now. So at the end of the episode, it's all revealed that this was a reality show. But where and how did that start in the episode? Because Homer never is like forced to be with
Right.
this woman. He just like meets her by happenstance and then just like keeps
So the
coming.
entire time she was
She was Carmen Electra.
Carmen Electra, yeah, and when they come back from Act 2, like he is scared of her, but she decides to share her stakes with him, and then he becomes kind of childlike and tells us this story about how he bounced his super ball
Yeah.
so high and so fast that it hit the ceiling twice and it broke a lamp.
Yeah.
And
He's taking on a surrogate mother relationship at first. That's what it seemed like it was going to go.
It just all of that stuff moved so quickly and weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, that whole ending is a mess. Is so like there's a scene where she's playing cards or rummy cube or whatever it was with
Agnes and
Mrs. Glick and
the wealthy dowager.
and the wealthy
Yes.
dowager. And it seemed like they all. I mean, we don't know. It seemed like they all had a very established rapport. But if it was
Yeah.
Carmen Electra the whole time,
right.
Well, I mean, that could they could have been paid by the TV show to be
it was.
there. I
That's
guess.
the other thing. It was very unclear who was in on it. It seemed like Wiggum wasn't in on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't hold up under any sort of
At
scrutiny
any
at all.
scrutiny. Like not only like it didn't hold up under a microscope, it didn't hold up under just like those
glance.
clear glasses
Yeah.
they sell at Dwayne Reed on the spinny wheel.
Yeah, any like the weakest reading glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
See
Doesn't
through
hold
this
up.
episode. Yeah, but it just the way it happens is just so quick. because Homer's there. He's scared of this old woman, then he likes her, and then she's abusing him, and then Marge goes, and Marge is all of a sudden working for this old woman.
Well, he opens up a jar of pickles for her.
Yes, probably Vlasic pickles.
My guitar pickle.
Oh, well, buy some of those Vlasic pickles on our Amazon page.
And he does so, and he rips off his shirt somehow. Like he's using his shirt as a grip. That's what really inspires her to say, "Oh, you're so strong. You can come do things at my house all the time." So,
right.
If Homer doesn't open up a jar of pickles with his shirt, we probably don't have
Frame up.
At all. Like
exactly. I mean, it's just so shoehorned in. It's just.
That's actually how the failed Cheers spinoff starring Carla. It failed that way because it all hinged on a guy accidentally losing his shirt on opening a jar of pickles, and it didn't happen. And now we'll never have the tortellis.
We'll never have the tortellis. For a second, when you said failed Cheers spinoff, I thought you meant Frasier. I was going to say Frasier ran for 10 seasons.
Yeah.
Jack.
I have a very, very broad definition of failed.
Yes.
So do my parents.
Well, the Tortellis. Side note: the Tortellis do live on the Mindy Project. Dan Haida and Rio Perlman.
Oh, really?
Are Danny Castellanos, one of the main characters on that? They're his parents.
But they're not the
They're not the
The
Tortellis,
Castellanos, I
but
assume.
they're the Castellanos. But since it's those two who are also the Tortellis, it's like, oh, but they're really the Tortellis.
Yeah.
So the Mindy Project is actually part of the Cheers universe,
There you go.
which is part of the
Tommy Westphal.
the Tommy Westphalen, Simpsons, X-Files,
Yes, critic.
Megasphere.
Since we brought up Dan Hedaya, I just want to point out he was in a really great episode of the 80s Twilight Zone that is available on YouTube with Garrett Morris and Morgan Freeman and the actor who played Jerry Seinfeld's father. And it's like a comedic episode. I think it's called Dealer's Choice. Dan Hedaya plays the devil. Check it out.
He would play a great
really
devil.
good.
Dan
Yeah,
Hedaya,
yeah.
very, very great. He's a very underrated character
If you
actor.
have no idea who Dan Hedaya is, you'd probably know him best from Clueless. He was Cher's father.
dad.
I've never seen Clueless,
Really?
so I always know him for
Clueless is a good movie.
my first go-to Dan Hedaya is Addams Family and Addams Family Values.
He was in Addams Family?
Yeah, he's the lawyer.
Oh, yeah. Let's keep talking about Dan Hedaya.
Yes.
He did a great Nixon in the movie Dick.
Yes, with
he did do a good
Will Ferrell and
Michelle
Bruce
Williams
McCullough.
and
Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst.
Yes.
Was it Michelle Williams? I think it
I
was.
think
Yeah,
it was.
I
Yeah,
believe so.
it was Dawson Creek days.
Yeah. That was an okay movie, but you know, Bruce McCullough, where's he been? My favorite kid in the hall. Just cut all of this. This isn't interesting. No one even knows who Bruce McCullough
I'm sorry,
is.
I'm not participating in the conversation. I'm trying to think of more Dan Hedaya roles.
We'll save this off for the.
His Hedaya has passed.
We're saving
Sorry,
this off
Dan.
for the. We're saving this off for the Die Another Hedaya.
Oh, yeah, I like
Oh,
that.
this
I like
guy.
that. I like it.
Ooh.
We'll
I
have
like
you
it.
back just on the
Great.
Dan Hedaya, Die Another Hedaya
On
podcast.
the network of podcasts that
Yes.
this one will spawn.
The 27 podcasts that we already have in production.
Hedaya, Hedaya.
So just so we're clear,
Daylight come
we're cutting all of this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
and me one go home. Hedaya. Hedaya.
You might also remember him from the end of Beetlejuice.
Cut all of this. Oh boy.
So,
Where were we? Oh,
The Simpsons.
so yeah. So with that scene, with Agnes and Mrs. Glick and everything, there's another Agnes Skinner, which I probably wouldn't even have brought up, except we have been bringing it up lately.
Yeah.
And it was just another Agnes is awful mother, and it just felt empty. He's like, can I read something while I'm waiting in the car? Read some magazines. And she's like, you read enough at school, and like they're
Yeah.
all making fun of him. And it was such a empty. Like I don't mind a good Agnes Skinner riff.
Yeah.
But it just felt so like just there.
that one didn't bother me as much as the one where it was like, I wish you were dead, Seymour.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
right. Well, I was also a little thrown off by who she has to gum to get a martini around.
Ooh, that was yeah.
That was deeply disturbing.
Yeah, ugh.
In an episode that already featured Wang multiple times, then to have that.
I would take 100 wangs before I had to hear an Agnes oral sex joke.
And you're a fart date, so I don't know if we want to have you have 100 Wangs. What's happening to this episode?
The wangs give me the farts.
Ugh.
We should never record at night.
Yeah,
Nope.
never, ever,
Nope.
ever. But we should always record with Popeye's chicken.
Popeye's delicious Louisiana chicken. It's probably in your neighborhood.
Popeyes, please pay us for this.
I feel like if this was not an audio podcast, but one of those video podcasts, we'd have please buy Popeye's chicken going across on a banner.
It would also be really,
Arbor hot dogs.
it would be really jarring if this was a video podcast because of all the cuts we have to make when we break out into,
Hey-o.
yeah, when we break into Harry Belafonte
Yeah.
song parodies about Dan Hedaya.
And by being about Dan Hedaya, it was just his name.
Weren't we gonna write a song about Dan Hedaya when we were in high school, and
Yeah,
that's
we
how
were-
I discovered IMDb? Well, there's something.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
something
so.
like that.
Rusty doesn't understand.
I-
That was last week.
We're
Rusty.
making lots of references to last week's episode, which hasn't aired yet, so you haven't.
Yes.
So you're a little behind.
Yeah.
But,
I just like Hedaya.
We all like Hedaya here.
Oh, it's at this point in the episode that Marge and Homer are also indentured servants. They've gone full butler and maid.
yeah, it was a very big jump. It went from Marge was like, "Hey, I'm not. She's gonna make me do the laundry.
Yep.
But I'm only gonna do this one load," and then they're servants.
They're in full
It is.
costume.
It's completely that, and then this happens
Yeah.
where it doesn't make any sense. It's just this is what needs to happen. They have to be there to kill this
Yeah.
old woman.
I
but
mean,
not
I
really.
appreciate a good, funny transition where it's like, I'm never gonna sing a Dan Hedaya song, and then suddenly I'm singing a Dan Hedaya song. You know, I'm gonna just thread it in so much that we can't cut it out now. That's right. or what I think what we'll do is we'll cut out the entire Dan Hedaya thread, but leave in all these references so that all of the listeners right now will be like, "What are they talking about?" And you'll have to wait for the mini-sode, which
That's
we're gonna
right.
charge $10 for.
Oh,
And only Dan Hedaya will find it.
the mini-sode, that's the sweetest plum.
Did any of us think we would talk so much about Dan Hedaya before we started
I-
recording
it was
this? I
Mark-
don't even remember how he got brought up.
It was marked on my calendar.
No.
Today a day.
Well, not to go back a little bit more, but this also preceding all of this stuff, the scene with all the old women,
Yeah.
it was a really great transition when Homer gets a call from Miss Bellamy at work, and
Oh, yeah, I
he gets
wanna talk
asked
about this too, yeah.
to mow the lawn. He goes, I can do that, and it's a real funny moment when Mr. Burns
Yeah.
is asked to cover for
Yeah.
him.
Right.
It's something they hadn't done in 13 seasons. It was a kind of a Mr. Burns Homer joke that hasn't been done yet, and it
Yeah.
was very welcome.
And I don't even think Burns said anything. He just like sat in Homer's chair and like started to push things, and then just had a donut and kicked back. And then I loved Carl walks by, and both of them are like, ah!
I love that, but then they did the exact same joke with Lenny, and
Lenny,
it
and
killed
it-
it.
yeah.
And maybe if they did it a third time, it might have been funny, but I feel like it would have just been better than one and done.
If they had done Smithers after Lenny, that would have been interesting.
Okay, that could have been. If they had done Dan Hedaya, it was Dan Hedaya walked in by the door, and Mr. Burns, and they scared each other.
Did someone say Dan Hedalek? No?
Get back at the corner.
Okay. Goodbye.
Spoiler alert! If anybody doesn't want to know, they made a big announcement about Doctor Who season 9. Missy is returning, and also Dan Hedalek.
Is playing all the dollars.
Dan Hedaya is playing all the Hedaleks. I was in Adam Stanley Myers.
You didn't know it, but I played the lawyer.
Cher, what are you up to this time?
When are you gonna get with Paul Rudd already? Spoilers for the movie Clueless. We can never record at night.
Rusty's like, look, I drove an hour and a half to get here.
I just want to talk
I
about
just
The
want to talk
Simpsons."
about The Simpsons. It's kind of my thing. I win all the
Yeah,
time at
that's
trivia. I don't win Dan Hedaya trivia. It's not what I signed up for.
Well,
Sorry, Rusty.
it's okay. Hey, it's because I got second place.
That's right. This is
Exactly.
your
This is my
punishment.
The first place, we talked about Simpsons and no tangents. It was literally just
That's right. With the first place winner.
It's a nice conversation, I imagine.
All right.
third place. We just talk about Coach for an hour.
That's right. Oh man, let's talk about some Coach.
I meant Coach, the character from Cheers, but I could see how you immediately thought I meant
immediately thought Craig T.
Yeah,
Nelson
no.
and our old friend Jerry Van Dyke
course,
from
of
You
course.
Wish and Teen Angel.
Jerry Van Dalek.
Did someone say my name?
Oh, I did, but
Da, 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 da.
again, neighbors.
Yeah, get back in the corner, Dalek. No, I'll be over here then.
Anywho,
Yeah, so the woman dies, right? and we see this man with the braces is the one who did it, and he leaves, and then Wiggum is talking to Marge and Homer, and I want to know what you guys thought of this when he just goes, "Did you do it?" and like tries to catch them.
Yeah.
And then Homer does it to him.
Yeah.
I thought that
I
was
liked
a little too
Wiggum's.
much.
I liked the idea of Wiggum trying like something he would see on TV, like a cool interrogation tactic, but
Yeah.
totally being like dopey about
Terrible
it.
with it. Yeah.
But in practice, it was just kind of annoying. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah,
Rusty?
I thought it was annoying too. It's just like, oh, this is Wiggum is yelling at them at the crime scene.
Yeah, I don't know. When Wiggum did it, didn't bother me so much. It was when Homer turned it around on him and was like, "Does that ever work?"
Again, that was the extra beat. It
That,
was
yeah, yep,
I
that
think
was too much.
if I had to sum up the problem with the show so far, the new episodes of this, again, I don't. There's so many problems, and I don't
Yeah.
think we've only begun to scratch the surface. But right now, at least that surface is one beat too many. I feel like that.
I agree with you.
If I had one wish to fix The Simpsons, I would be take away one beat from every scene.
Yeah.
And I think it would do a little. It would actually help a little bit.
I agree with
Yep,
you.
me too.
That's the end of the podcast.
All right, well, looks like we discovered we've solved all the
We've
Simpsons
solved every
problems,
We've given Dan Hedaya's IMDb page a bump.
and
His star rating has risen.
that's the end of that chapter.
Now that I think about it, I guess because once she got murdered, the episode started to click into place in my memory. Like I knew she wasn't dead.
Right,
But
yeah.
if I did, like that was kind of gruesome. Pair of scissors in the spine. That was
It was very
Well, I
gruesome.
mean,
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
the Halloween episodes by then they were that gruesome.
I
but-
didn't remember that it was all a work. Oh man! Oh my God! I just dipped into wrestling terminology. That it's all a work for these marks. Sorry, we can cut that. I didn't remember that it was all a ruse until.
the non-wrestling term ruse.
Damn it! I didn't remember that she wasn't actually dead until like the very end. So when we were watching it, I was like, "That's dark," because she died on camera. Like she
Yeah.
gets up and is like, "Ah," and then
And
dies.
Homer picks her up and then drops her, and
Yeah.
you hear the scissors,
Scissors
going
like going
deeper
into her
into
back.
her.
Yeah, that was dark.
Yeah.
But then the episode went to a weirder, more character-based dark place, because Homer and Marge become like the people of interest in this the death of this old woman.
Yeah.
And Homer starts to use that notoriety to like get things.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that. Actually, I think that was my favorite part of the episode.
Really?
This story, like I thought until I remembered the reality show ending. This actually kind of reminded me of like Gone Girl. I don't know. Have you guys seen Gone Girl?
I have. I
mean,
read the book. I haven't
I'm
seen
not
the
going to do
movie
any
yet.
spoilers,
Yeah.
but in general, the movie is about a man whose wife has gone missing. And
Right.
it's kind of like that, it's all over not only the news, but it's all over like Nancy, what's her name?
Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace, and it's kind of becomes a media circus. And I really like the idea that the Simpsons, it was a good Simpsons story, a good Springfield story is, what would a small town be like if it was rocked by a murder? Now, they've done that in
Yes.
a little-known episode called "Who Shot Mr. Burns?"
Yep.
But
Yep.
so I was like, all right, so that's kind of lame. But it did differentiate itself from "Who Shot Mr. Burns," in that it focused on one suspect, and Homer was kind of the Ben Affleck of this episode.
Right.
And I thought that could have been a really good story, and I thought they started doing good things with it, like Homer using the tour bus to get home, or
Yeah,
to
right, the
using
death tour.
Yeah,
Those
to
are bad
using his
guys.
notoriety to get free peanuts and stuff from the bar. I like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And you know what? I actually really like the story. I just wish it went somewhere, and it didn't. So I'm not justifying the episode. I just wanted to get that out. I'm not justifying it. But
Right.
Yeah. It was an enjoyable part. I also thought that it also drew a parallel to Homer Badman, where Homer is
Yes.
the
media
town
story.
the media scrutiny.
That's a good point. So
Yep.
they have done the media
And
circus.
also he takes a lot of joy out of this like newfound like clout he has. It's also like in
Yeah.
E.I.E.I.D.O. where he gets into the duels and he discovers
the tobacco
Oh, right, the
episode.
glove slap.
the glove
thing.
slap,
Yeah.
and he takes it. He just uses it to get what he wants, and
Yeah.
The,
know.
the glove slap episode. Wasn't there a special musical guest in that episode?
I think you're talking about the B-52. Glove slap, baby, glove slap. Is that my favorite band, the B-52s?
Get out of here, Dan
gets-
Hedaya and Dalek.
Okay.
I'm
Watch
sorry.
Dick on DVD.
Roy brought up the. Yeah, I know. I had to.
So yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it as much as you guys, the whole Homer having the notoriety thing. It made him kind of come off as like a monster, I thought.
A little.
But I thought that got even worse at the end of the second act. Wiggum arrests him, and then Homer tries to bribe his way out of it with the diamond necklace. And I thought that was not Homer-like. That was like knowingly evil, not affably stupid.
It's very similar to just burying the Screama pillar.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Also, in that scene, Wiggum had a really weird delivery where he gets offended that he's being bribed, and he goes from indignant to cutesy.
Yeah.
So
because he realizes he could just take it from the evidence locker later.
Yeah, he's like, how dare you bribe me? I could just take it from the evidence locker. That's what it started to be. But then for some reason, the tail end of that went back to indignant, and it was just really weird. This is really nitpicky. It's a very, like, one specific sentence.
Right. It was too...
I was just like, what the hell's going on? Nobody knows what's going on in this episode.
Nope.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the biggest problem with this episode.
These characters, again, one of the reasons I picked this, these characters really aren't themselves.
Yeah.
And everything seems really off about the way they act.
It's just all so forced. Like, everything is just, we have to get to this moment, and none of those moments even make sense together.
No, it's a fucking mess.
It's a lot like this podcast. Like, it doesn't make sense that we're talking about Dan Hedaya and the B-52s.
Perfect sense we're talking
This
about
is all so forced.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I forced you.
Oh, a new Dalek is here.
Dalek Paradigm.
Hey, man, this is my studio. Get out of here. I'll plunger you. Not in a sexual way.
Oh dear. In that everything is forced kind of way. There's also a few good laughs at child and animal abuse in this episode. That how the way they get the Screaming Pillar out of Santa's little helper's mouth is that Bart, in one of his rare appearances in this episode, looks around and pulls a cat literally out of nowhere and shoves it in his mouth so the cat can get
that was kind
ripped
of
apart.
As a cat owner, I did not care for that.
As I have 3 cats.
Whoa! As a triple cat
owner, I am triple amused. No, this is it's a funny bit, but
No, you're right. It's hard to sell animal cruelty. It's hard to make that funny.
Yeah.
Panda rape, animal cruelty, they have trouble with
unless
that.
Unless it's against the Screaming Pillar. I'm all about it for a Screaming Pillar.
Yeah.
But and then when they see a newscast about Myrna Bellamy's death and like, oh, we're suspects. How can we be suspects for just everyone wanted her dead. What was the issue? Dad wants people dead all the time.
Yes.
Bart would be dead 1,000 times over, and the family has a great chuckle about it. There's
There's no joke. It's just Homer would kill Bart if he could.
Oh, would he?
That's it.
It was.
So Homer was a monster in this episode.
Yeah.
Is where I think we're landing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. He was almost like it was He was passively a monster.
Which is almost even worse.
Well, not only was he a monster, he's also the world's greatest husband. Which is
That's true. The dichotomy between Homer actually being a good husband and also possibly murdering an old lady and trying to bribe police officers and maybe killing his son.
So, the next scene is the court. They're back in court again, which you think they would tie into his first court appearance, but they don't. It's just a completely separate thing. Their defense lawyer is Gil Gunderson.
Yes.
Which, back in our Kill Gil episode, I said that Kill Gil showed up in the...
his name is Kill Gil. That's the character.
God damn it. And when Frying Pan showed up... when Gil showed up, his first appearance was the Lionel Hutz, Big Lionel Hutz episode with the Realty Bites. Mm-hmm. And I said that Gil has kind of become the de facto Hutz. You kind of just throw him into
like the hem and haw job.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And it's kind of full circle that he becomes their defense lawyer. If Phil Hartman had still been alive, that would have 100% been Lionel Hutz.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Gil as their defense lawyer?
I don't know, because Gil's been so many other things. Like, it just feels like, he's like the worst. He's the worst job guy in town now. Like, he's the sad sack. He's the sad sack, and the Simpsons are like, well, let's just hire the sad sack to defend us. Like, I thought at first that the blue-haired lawyer was going to be their lawyer,
right?
But then I was sadly mistaken.
Well, it's interesting though, because what else could they do? Like, you don't want to introduce another lawyer just to replace Lionel Hutz.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the idea that it's not a new character. It's someone we know, and it sort of makes sense.
Have there been any defense lawyer scenes since season 13? They've had so many Lionel Hutz moments. Have they had any trial scenes since?
I don't know if they've ever been in the courtroom in the last 12 years.
They really stopped doing those legal procedural episodes.
I really can't remember. I know that
I feel like they usually just don't have a lawyer.
Yeah, I feel like it's usually just Homer representing himself now.
like Judge Harm will yell at him, or Judge Snyder will, boys will be boys. Something like
but
that.
there's no lawyer.
Yeah. There's no lawyer. It's usually just like at a hearing or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I guess there's your answer. Rather than have Gil, just have
no one. No one can replace Phil Hartman, is what we've decided.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And R.I.P. John Lovitz.
SNL 40
That
makes
was
humor.
That was a great joke.
Speaking of SNL, sort of, right before the trial started, there was a spinning newspaper that said O.J. Simpson trial to begin. That just made me think of Norm Macdonald always bringing up the O.J. Simpson trial. That was the connection. It was not a good segue.
It was a good segue. It was a bad segue, but let's talk about it. It was a terrible joke. It was lame.
No.
Yeah, that's pretty weak.
O.J. Simpson jokes about a decade at that point.
Yeah.
It's they also made a Cher reference at the end of the episode. Nothing more timely than a Cher joke. In 2002.
Yeah. It's 2002. Let's do Cher and OJ jokes.
You believe in doing
That's like
Cher joke.
That's like doing.
Actually, that song was right around that.
Yeah,
time.
that was around that time. So Cher was having a Cher renaissance.
Oh, gee.
Not nearly as relevant as talking about Dan Hedaya in 2015.
No.
There was probably like a 3-week period in 1994 where it was okay to talk about Dan Hedaya and not be considered weirdos.
What do you think about Cher, Dalek? I believe in life after love.
No auto-tune.
No, all right.
I got you, babe.
Get out of here, other Dalek. Exterminate him. I'm falling.
So in that court...
What are we doing? I'm sorry. You're trying to get us back
I am.
on.
You are.
Just like
You
taking
are.
us way off.
In that, I'm just as guilty.
Chief, if you let us go, there's a diamond necklace in it for you.
I hope you're not suggesting that I would take that necklace as a bribe. Think again, dirtbag, because I can just swipe it later from the evidence locker.
Later in the episode, they cut to Springfield Penitentiary's death row, which is and one of those other things we talked about. It's just the extra beat. I think nowadays they just pan over this, but they zoom in on the sign that says that it's
a great sign.
It's a great sign, not affiliated with Death Row Records, but they throw in this little wiki.
Yeah.
In case you don't get the joke.
I mean, the Simpsons have been
thing.
doing sign gags since pretty much day one.
Yeah, they invented the sign
and their
gag.
sign gags are usually really good. Even in the shittiest of episodes we've watched, there's usually a good one here or there. But I've never seen them give it musical accompaniment before. That's really it's just weird. I mean, the whole point of the sign gag is for it to be this let alone besides the fact that they zoomed in on it, which is kind of killing it.
Yeah.
It
should be blink and you'll miss it.
I mean, it doesn't
call
have to
attention
be
it.
blink and you miss it. There's the funny pastor signs were always front and center for a few seconds, but to zoom on it, it's unnecessary. But yet that wiki that musical, I've never seen that before. Imagine if the first time you saw King Tut's music store, they just started playing Egyptian music for 3 seconds.
Right,
it was
right.
just weird.
Yeah. Also, while you were talking, I thought if you wanted to run a website about hip hop that was a wiki, you could call it the Wiki. I'll see myself out.
No.
I've got dozens of these, Dave. Top 10 names for hip hop websites.
Wiki is clearly the winner. Okay, I'll leave again and take my buddies with me.
Speaking of Simpsons, speaking of music, they also brought back one of my all-time favorite Simpsons tropes, the fight music.
They did. When did that come in?
The priest.
With Lovejoy.
And the evangelistic priest start to fight.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I that fight music. When me and my sister would start to have actual fights where we felt ourselves breaking out into a fight, we would instantly just start playing that music out. We'd sing the music as we were fighting, and it would diffuse the situation. Yeah, it was just it's one of my favorite things. They've been doing it forever. It's always usually Bart and Milhouse break out into a fight.
Right.
What is that? Is that original Simpsons music? Is that a parody of a movie?
I feel like maybe it's a specific parody, but I feel like it's from like the Star Trek episode where Kirk and Spock fight.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
one's
mean,
like
yeah, it's not quite that. You think it's a reference to that?
It's like a similar. It's a more punchy version.
I think like also like maybe like Kojak or the French Connection, like
maybe,
car chase kind of thing. I think they do
maybe.
it in like I think season 3 Separate Vocations when Bart's getting run down in the alleyway.
They do.
And Snake is somehow really a dick, and he's like, "I'm gonna
murder this child.
I'm gonna murder you, little. Go to hell, little dude." You know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good Snake.
And you know, it's just very much that whole like cop show kind of Sting music, and I think it's the first time it's heard in the series, but it's such a great catch-all for any kind of dramatic
like high drama moments.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite tropes. Like I said, I don't think this might be the first time I've seen it in an episode we've covered on the show. Yeah. So I feel like they don't use it nearly as much now in the newer. I mean, season 13's way back when, but I'd love to see it again, and I would love if it was in a season 25 or season 26. I mean, the thing is, it's probably so dated now it doesn't work, because if it is commenting on cop shows of 10 years before. That's that's a different joke than commenting on a show that pretty much nobody is familiar with except for a very small part of their audience.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point that out because my sister would appreciate it if she listens to this podcast, which she
does not.
No. I felt that that whole fight scene between the priests was kind of slow. Like, they were just like, we're gonna fight, and there was like 4 or 5 punches thrown, and then the cops in the death row prison broke it up. Like, it went on a little long. It was like, I don't know. It just seemed to drag. It seemed to drag.
It seemed much like the rest of the episode. It seemed to drag.
So again, I want to talk about what I liked about this episode. I liked the gun girl media circus plot. Although now I think about it, Homer Badman kind of was the same thing.
Yeah.
What I really did like as well is, even though Homer was a really good husband in the beginning and almost too much so, I like that he sacrificed himself.
Yes.
Literally, he was putting himself on death row by confessing, and it wasn't forced. Nobody asked him to do it.
Yep.
He saw how heartbroken Marge was that she was going to die.
Yeah.
And he just, without talking about it, he took it upon himself and confessed and said, I did it. He confessed to murder, to go on death row to save his wife. It was literally the opposite of the scene from The Man Who Came to Be Dinner.
Yeah, it was what they wanted that scene to be, but here it worked.
Yeah, and so I want to give the episode points for that, even though they did kind of take it away right away when he then goes, okay, now you sacrifice yourself for me. I mean, that was less selfish and more stupid, but it still took
it deflated the balloon so quickly.
It deflated the emotion balloon.
Yep.
Yeah, Homer's kind of looking forward to dying because his last meal is this like horrible smorgasbord of pizza and chicken and beer,
donuts, of course,
donuts, and he's ready to go kaboom. He's very gleeful in the fact that he is going to die.
Yeah, it's kind of that also deflated it.
Yeah.
The big moment, because it's almost like he knew that it's The Simpsons and that it won't end with him dying. So we'll wrap up in a minute here. A couple things about Death Row. I think even before that,
they do an Death Row.
Of course, wiki. They
good callback.
They do an extended Green Mile parody with Michael Clark Duncan.
And again, it just went on too long.
And it went on too long, and you haven't seen Green Mile.
I've never seen it. I got that it was a reference to it.
As someone who has seen it, didn't do anything. It was the joke was that he was this big sensitive giant like in the movie, but he was actually also really
really violent.
Yeah,
right.
And it's just like okay, whatever. If you're gonna do that, please just do it for like 5 seconds. You guys, they have to learn how to be concise like we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, precisely. Take a note, guys. There is also, and one other thing about the commentary on the DVD of this episode, when they're sitting down to do the table read for this episode, on the Fox lot, who strolls in but Michael Clark Duncan?
Really?
Who plays that same character that's parodied on the episode, and he wasn't supposed to be there at all. He had just stumbled into the wrong
He
room.
walked through the wrong wall.
He Kool-Aid Man right through the building. No, so
rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan.
The producers talk and say, hey, we actually have this part in this episode that's perfect for you, and he's like, no, and like goes on his day. I thought
He
that
had
was
better sense
I mean,
than that.
I really like that he said no. I like that makes me like him even more. Although, who turns down a Simpsons role? Come on.
Well, he was too busy with Daredevil.
yeah.
Hey, actually, honestly, I thought he was great.
He was a great
Yeah,
Kingpin.
he was a perfect Kingpin.
He
Yeah,
was.
and rest in peace.
Yeah, rest
Michael-
in peace.
Michael
I mean,
Clark Duncan.
that was a sad one.
Rest
Michael
in
Clark
pieces, like the crumbs of wall that he Kool-Aid Man threw. Yeah.
The Green Mile. At that point, it's kind of newish. It was the
Yeah,
newer
yeah.
thing.
It was a few
And it was a
years.
big enough of cultural movie that it didn't feel forced. But
you don't need to
do something
beat it
with
into the ground
make
like
fun,
they did.
Do something funny with it. Bring back Michael Jeter from last week's episode we covered.
Right.
My favorite character actor from
Of course.
Evening Shade. But so one last thing about the prison I want to mention is they show the warden, and even though we've established that there's a separate prison than the one from Pokemon, if you're gonna have a warden, why
get
not
Charles
have
Napier.
Charles Napier? He was alive
Yeah.
at the time.
Rest in peace,
There's-
Charles Napier.
Yeah, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
At least Dan Hedaya's alive for now.
For now.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope
Wow.
something horrible doesn't happen to him
Yeah.
in the week before this comes out.
Because you don't hope nothing horrible happens to Dan Hedaya because it would make this episode
this
that
podcast would be
awkward. That's the
this
only reason
largely
why.
Hedaya-based podcast.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
It would be a little awkward, but it would be a touching tribute.
A fitting tribute to his memory.
I hope that he decides to have this play over like the funeral ceremony, just like in the background, just our 2-hour long podcast,
right.
the full director's cut with all the Dan Hedaya references.
Minisodes.
Oh
all that
yeah,
stuff.
all that stuff.
Little Beethoven playing in the background. So there's one last thing I was going to bring up. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to mention about the show, but the episode ends with
Homer,
Homer looking at Carmen Electra's boobs.
Yeah, so Carmen Electra was playing the old woman the whole time.
But she pulls off. Miss Bellamy is a latex suit that she pulls off.
Yes.
So she's obviously now much curvier and
Right.
and her hosting
She's Carmen
dress.
Electra.
She's
like,
Carmen Electra.
in a very
And-
tight-fitting dress.
And like we've already established that the entire reality show conceit is ridiculous and there's no way it would work.
Yep.
But for them to have, for that costume to have been that convincing for Homer and Marge up close, it had to have been like Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Like the
type
face
face
masks.
masks. Yeah.
the budget for this is insane.
Yeah, I hope this reality show took off. It could have cost the network a lot of money,
Yeah.
Oh man.
since it was basically the Truman Show.
Yeah, that's right. But no, at the end, Homer is talking to Carmen Electra and just staring at her chest, and she's like, "My eyes are up here," and he's like, "I've made my decision." End of episode.
Credits.
Yeah, the joke is he's like, "Look, I'm just gonna look at your
I'm
boobs."
just gonna look at your boobs.
I'm like, okay, so glad you did that sweet thing for your
And-
wife.
Yeah, right.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Okay, so there's just 8 more things I want to say about Dan Hedaya,
Okay,
and then
good.
we'll move on to the.
Let's talk more about
No,
Dick.
let's rank the episode. We're gonna rank it. Rusty, you're a fan of the show. Did you listen a few weeks ago when we started our new Dave system, which
Yeah, it's you have some numbers, you rank
Yeah.
them like that.
So-
On a system of like
in 4 categories. Last week we decided to fine tune it again. This is the first week I think where we're pretty much leaving it alone.
Yeah.
Because we're pretty
Yeah.
happy with the system we've got. Right now we're tentatively calling it the Hippo system.
Right.
4 categories are.
We're looking at the humor of the episode, the integrity of the episode, meaning does the story kind of make sense, or the characters as we know them, the production of the episode, and the originality of the story, and have we seen something like this before? And in those 4 quadrants, humor and integrity matter more than the other 2.
Yeah, they're way more.
They're weighted higher.
Also, if you missed last week, we've also lowered our ranking. It was really 1 to 5. It's now 0 to 5. And we apparently had to come up with numbers lower than 1 for these episodes. And if things continue on this course, we might have to just start doing negatives.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much worse we
might
get
have
than
to, like,
Bonfire of the Madness.
convert to centigrade or
by,
something.
by episode like 65, it'll be imaginary numbers. It'll be negative pi.
This was a negative pi episode.
Another thing, because I don't know if you noticed, Rusty, now that you've actually been in We Studios and recorded with us, we tend to go a little long in the full cut.
Just a little bit.
A little.
So we've also instituted a rule that we're gonna time ourselves, and we're gonna start a little egg timer we've got here for the show, and we only have 2 minutes to basically lock in our scores. We're gonna do 2
minutes. Okay. We did 3 last time. We had
there's
extra
too much
time left over.
Boy.
So the 3 of us, we're all gonna go over each category and say what we're thinking, and if we maybe try to convince each other otherwise.
Yeah.
But at the end of the 2 minutes, we pretty much have to lock in our numbers. It just kind of like remember America's Funniest Home Videos where everybody had that like ridiculous contraption.
Oh, yeah, on the seats.
Like what was that thing? Like what?
And then the grand prize episode is like, we have San Diego. We have
Oh, right, yeah, they have other
a whole,
locations.
like studio audience in San Diego or like Portland or
Yeah, they're all
Bismarck.
just sitting there
I
watching
just
the
was gonna
video
say, I
feed
always
of
thought about
America's
that.
Funniest Home Video.
Like, did you literally go to a studio audience to watch America's Funniest Home
but
Video?
you get to rank the episode
with
or
that
the
big
clips.
giant contraption. It
Yeah.
looked like a dentist chair
Yeah, right.
adjuster.
That's how you really know you like the Speedo Man.
That's right.
We gotta get. Oh man, we got this
Gotta
ticking.
get a Speedo Man in here.
We got this ticking clock for our egg timer for the thing, but now I kind of we probably have to get copyright. I kind of want to use the America's Funniest Home Video music.
Yeah,
while we're
that
thinking
might-
it.
that might be a
It was like doom 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 doom.
We could just use you doing that.
No, I'm trying to do it as a Dalek. It's hard to do monos. Choose your video wisely or die. Number 3, man being hit in balls.
Oh, my groin!
Imagine if a Dalek was a host of America's Funniest Home Videos and did all the overdubbing of the video. It's like, oh boy, here's my son. I hope nobody hits me in the face.
It's slippery up on this roof. I hope I don't fall. Oh no, I'm falling.
Ow, my plunger.
Okay, let's get to the ranking of the episode. It's now 5 o'clock in the morning when we're recording this.
We've also, the end of our egg timer, we were playing with our sound effects and we had come up with booing
Yes.
to be our alarm
end of the
sound.
timer, yeah.
But I've decided, Dan, I actually made several egg timers with all different sound effects.
All right, so
I'm just
we're going to mix it up.
I'm just gonna mix it up.
All right, let's do it.
Because I'm
that.
sure ticking clocks won't get old real fast for our listeners.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's do it. So let's set the timer, Jack. Okay, so the humor of this episode, there were a couple of moments that I thought were funny. It wasn't terrible throughout.
Yeah, I actually, the first act, like even Screamer Pillar aside, there was a lot of individual jokes. Like we mentioned the Burns thing. I like the Burns joke.
right.
And there was some stuff like about Homer being kind of a child and trying to impressing Miss Bellamy with his childlike stories and the whole
Right.
bus tour.
I liked all those things. All right, so
Yeah.
2.5 is our average. I would give this a 3.5.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd go that high. I might say it was average.
You know what? Okay, I'll give it a 3. I'll give it a 3.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm gonna go
integrity.
2.5.
Homer was too nice. It was the opposite of Homer
Yeah.
versus Dignity.
Well, he was too nice, and he was also
In the beginning.
I thought acting fairly like a monster.
Yeah.
I think the monster stuff's a little. Oh man, we're running out of time.
Yeah, I know.
I would
Maybe
say
not a monster, but he was a little eviler than he usually is. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty low in integrity. I might say like a 1.
I don't think so at all. I would say 2.5.
Really?
I think if anything, well, Rusty.
I'd say 1.5.
All right. Well, if you're thinking 1.5, I'm gonna go 2. I'll go 2.
Okay. Production, well, as we said before, there was a lot of like nicely animated things, but it also had that weird
Yeah, it had
animation
that
glitch
glitch.
that I
Had
was
the
talking
Poochie.
about.
It had the Poochie.
So,
Poochie goes to
I'll bump
heaven.
it up because I thought that Mrs. Bellamy's house was very well designed. I like the koi pond
I love
animation.
the fish. There was a fish hanging on the fish tank.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
hanging,
Oh yeah, we
hanging
didn't
for its
even
life.
talk about that scene, but yeah, that was funny.
But I
and
didn't like the sound design. Didn't like that screaming caterpillar. I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
I'm gonna go 3. Oh, we're running out of time.
Originality.
Originality, yeah, I mean it was.
It was original, but come on, the whole thing was a reality show. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's kind of a cop out.
Yeah, I didn't really love that. So I'm gonna go lower than average. I might say like 1.5.
I was thinking 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. There's a lot of other Simpsons episodes hidden in this, but really poorly
That's what I
done.
was saying. I like the Gone. I keep calling it the Gone Girl, but yeah, Mr. Burns did it. Homer Badman did it. So I can't really justify giving it a 2.5.
Yeah.
Production, I feel like
I think that was the Brontosaurus noise that would.
that was a
That
brontosaurus whale.
finished off our timer. All right, well the numbers are locked in then.
I'm sorry, I didn't think we were gonna make it,
Yeah, I don't either.
especially with 3 of us. So well
yeah,
done,
well,
boys.
Yeah.
Got that synergy going.
All right, so our numbers are locked in, and Jack, let me tell you where this episode is ranked.
Okay.
We are going to say that the Frying Game from season 13 is a better episode than Mo Letter Blues, but a worse episode than Kill Gill.
All right, that makes sense.
Which puts it towards the bottom of our list, meaning it's towards the better episodes, which is kind of surprising.
I think, well, again, this is why I like our formula better. We've given more weight to humor, and I do think that, in general, this was a funnier episode than we've usually seen. I don't think it was a funny episode, but it was a funnier episode than we've seen.
I laughed out loud more than, like, Gump Roast or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with it, and to be honest, Mole Letter Blues is quickly fading from memory.
It is.
I think I was a little too easy on it a few weeks ago. So sorry, Dave, if you're listening. You were right. You were right.
He might be listening.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so I think that's it for the episode, right, guys?
No, I want to talk about Dan Hedaya for another
then it's definitely it for the episode. Yes. It is now 5:30 in the morning. Rusty, we want to thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll have you back.
We'd love to have you back.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed. And if you have more terrible episodes to watch, that is.
Oh, of course.
I know there's not many to choose from.
There's only guys, I hate to break it to you, there's only like maybe 3 or 4 more terrible episodes of The Simpsons out there.
Oh, no.
And then they're all gold.
They're all comedy gold.
Well, we'll end the podcast at the end of April then.
We'll move on to the Tortellis.
That's right.
We'll rank all one episode of the Tortellis.
Beautiful. So that is it for this episode. If you have a terrible Simpsons episode you would like to suggest, or maybe you have an old sitcom you want us to watch and talk about, or a Dan Hedaya movie we can watch, you can suggest all that stuff. Go to weepodcast.com, weepodcast.com. From there, you can get to our Twitter. We're at Worst Episode Pod. You can get to our Facebook. It's facebook.com/weepodcast. And you can get to our email, which is worstepisode@gmail.com. So check out all that stuff, and you can click through our Amazon link. Please click through. It helps us keep the show free. We like that.
Yeah,
buy some pickles.
Buy some pickles.
Buy some pickles. Buy some doll clothes for your penis. What else did we talk about that episode? Buy some Dan Hedaya movies.
Yeah.
I have some things on my wish list.
Yeah, buy Rusty the John Swartzwelder books.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things out there you can buy for us. Please do.
And the dog clothes for your penis could also fit on your pickles. You could dress up your pickles.
Did you say Dalek clothes?
No.
Oh, all right.
Again, what would that be? A moo-moo?
I guess. It's just a hole cut out for a plunger.
Is he Jewish?
Wrong plunger. So that is it.
That's the name of the episode.
If you're in the Brooklyn area, you have just missed our Diorama Rama.
Oh, you should have been there. No, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
What day is today? Today
March
is
4th.
March 4th. Okay, yeah, so you still have time. You can come to Diorama Rama if you're listening to this the day after or the day it comes out. That is at Berry Park in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
That will have to be some fast diorama making, though.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to really whip it together. No cow
No
hearts,
cow
please.
hearts.
No cow hearts.
Anyway, Simpsons Trivia, that's at Berry Park in Brooklyn. I co-host that with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie, and that is the first Thursday of every month. We also have trivia nights in Chicago and in Toronto and a number of North American cities. Just Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. You can find more information out about that. We will be back next week, we being Worst Episode Ever, and also all of us except Rusty.
Rusty will be with us in spirit.
In spirit. We will be back next week with a new contender for Worst Episode Ever. Jack, which one are we going to watch? Do you know?
Okay, I remember it was we decided at the beginning of the show, which was 9 hours ago.
Yes. I'll just tell you what we're going to watch.
It's season 20.
It's a season 20 episode.
Oh, I remember. It's Lisa the Drama Queen.
That is correct. It's Lisa the Drama Queen. That's our episode for next week, so you can watch that one on Simpsons World whenever you have a chance and be ready for that one. Boy, oh boy, we're at the end of the show and we still don't have a way to sign off, so we're just gonna say what comes to mind.
We're gonna let Dan Hedaya end tonight's show.
This is an honor and a privilege.
We're not Catholic. Oh, cheer. Well, then, I hope you enjoy your stay in hell.
Nice dress.
Oh, go home and have sex with your wife.
That's it. Bring it on.
You're not... Oh, come on, you Satan.